Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Bullshit. Welcome to another exciting edition of Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers. I am Dion Baia, here as always with
J. Blake.
J. Blake is a little under the weather tonight because we had
Have to excuse me.
We had this splendid idea of
we did an experiment.
Yeah, so on a late Saturday night, since it is the winter, we figured the movie we're watching is suited to winter watching. So we said, hell, let's open the window.
Yeah.
And you bring the temperature down so we feel like we're right there.
We bundled up. We opened the windows.
We made it. We
got it to a crisp 19.
We made it 5D.
17, 18, 19 degrees in the apartment.
We made it nice. What is that, 40? 5D. 4D smelling?
Well, we didn't have 3D. I mean, I guess it was our own 3D.
Yeah, because we brought in the sensory perception
feel
of cold.
We wanted to feel the movie.
So yeah, Blake was closer to the window than I was. So
the draft. He got hit with the draft.
He's a little under the weather, and it's late too. It's late on the Saturday night or Sunday morning, whichever way you want to go. But that's a whole other class. Sunday morning sleepovers. That sounds like it'll go a little toward the religious as we get older.
Sunday morning sleepovers.
Yeah, we'll profile religious movies and talk about their impact on
700 Club episodes.
We'll bring on people All right, well, this week we're doing a movie near and dear to both our hearts. Every movie seems to be on this.
Well,
on this,
why would we
series.
do one that isn't?
That's true. Well, if we start doing recommendations, maybe we'll do something we weren't familiar with. This week we're doing John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982.
1982 was a hell of a year.
Hell of a year, yeah. This came out the same weekend as Blade Runner. And it came out, 2 weeks before or after E.T.?
I think it was after, but it was shortly after E.T.
And that kind of helped, I think, this kind of tanked at the box office.
Yeah.
John Carpenter's The Thing. E.T. did gangbusters. I think also did Blade Runner. And I think those two movies also kind of were the trifecta that put this one down because people were citing how horrible this movie was with the gore and the sci-fi, and look at how good this Philip K. Dick Ridley Scott movie sci-fi is. Look how good Spielberg's dealing with the sci-fi, and he already done Close Encounters.
But that's like the crazy thing about it is, there's a couple instances where you can point and as a little, at some point we'll get around to doing a movie called Peeping Tom.
Yeah, Powell.
Which Michael Powell. That movie ruined Michael Powell's career. The reception was so bad. And The Thing almost did that for John Carpenter. It's kind of amazing to think.
And we talked about the same thing with Orson Welles.
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane. That was right out the gate. He did 2 movies, Citizen Kane, and then he's done.
And then it ruined him.
He can never get back any of that. I mean, and some people argue.
And they're all great. And the crazy thing is that, I guess if there was a bad movie and it ruined somebody's career,
that's acceptable.
It wouldn't be that big of a story. Yeah. But the fact that these are arguably the best things they ever did.
Yeah.
And with The Thing, it didn't perform as well at the box office as everybody would have liked, but it was the critical reception that really kind of killed it.
And it was this one that actually personally hurt him too as well.
Oh yeah, anybody that's not gonna, who really takes negative criticism well?
That's true.
But here was a guy, he had done primarily low-budget movies and some TV movies, and then he's doing his first studio picture.
And they've all been reasonably successful. I mean, Halloween was a huge hit, And then the TV movies he did, Someone to Watch Over Me, and the Elvis movie,
And
and
Escape from New York.
Escape from New York, and prior to that, Assault on Precinct 13, and he won an Oscar, didn't he? For his senior film?
Oh,
what's that? Was that Oscar nominated? Maybe
it
Dark
was,
Star.
Yes, no, it was the thing that got Oscar. I don't think it was like a student Oscar. Was like The Adventures of Bronco Billy or something, which was a short that he did. Although that was, to my recollection, that's more of a collaborative film, and he did the score and edited it. I'm not positive if he directed it or not, but
we're in a treat. We're in for a treat this week, ladies and gentlemen, because Jay Blake is a aficionado on John Carpenter. He's interviewed him several times. They go out drinking. No, they don't go out drinking. They watch movies together.
I would like to.
They chain smoke together. But you are an aficionado of Carpenter, and so you could work us through the nuances of what's going on in front of and behind the camera for this film.
I can try.
So he's coming off
So
all
this
these
movie,
successes.
He's coming off of all these like low budget movie successes. He gets the chance to do his first studio like big budget film, and he does a remake of the Howard Hawks produced film, A Thing from Another World,
which is a huge classic in its own right.
Classic. Howard Hawks is his idol. It's a film that he loves, so he sets out to make this to do a remake of it.
The 1951 film, also directed by Christian Nyby.
But there's some controversy about who was the creative hand in that movie.
Which is
a lot of people say Hawks, but who knows?
Based off the novella, the John W. Campbell Jr. story, Who Goes There, which also for sci-fi was hugely groundbreaking in the late 30s because it was one of the first movies to deal with that.
The
stories of the invasion of the body snatchers, pod people.
Like
you're
the
not who you
paranoia.
are.
So it's all, that's the original source material. There was a movie made in the 50s, and now it's being remade in 1982. They've asked John Carpenter to come aboard to do it. Apparently, a few treatments and different versions of the script were made. I think maybe even Tobe Hooper wrote a version of the script.
Yeah, he was signed on to. He wrote a draft of it, and I guess they didn't like it or they thought against it. And this is another one of these great instances in our podcast where we can play the what if game, because there's a whole bunch of what ifs later on about casting, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But part of our what if game, if Tobe Hooper went to directing it, it would have been the best elaborate set you'd ever seen. But then, much like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, he blows his wad on the sets, or even I'd say people say Poltergeist, where it's like they say Spielberg kind of had a hand in that.
We should think about doing Poltergeist.
Well, I heard they greenlit a remake, or not even that. It's
coming out.
Yeah.
It's like this summer. It's produced by Sam Raimi.
Yeah, they must have dropped a teaser already. I haven't seen it, But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff going. So it's interesting that Carpenter wasn't the one who said, "Hey, let me do this."
Yeah.
They came to him, and he's like, "Sure."
And so finally, a screenwriter named Bill Lancaster writes a script for it that everybody seems to like. I'm sure Carpenter probably worked with him or did some rewrites or whatever, but Bill Lancaster gets the credit. Now, he's the son of Burt Lancaster.
Oh, I did not know that.
Famous actor.
Of course.
And,
hope people know who he is.
And his real claim to fame as a screenwriter was that he wrote Bad News Bears.
Oh, wow.
And, I don't know if he wrote the sequels or if he just gets credit because they're based on characters created by or whatever, but
that was when he went to Tokyo.
That was his big claim to fame, was Bad News Bears. So he writes a script, and he points, for him, the script is a lot more, it's not so much the sci-fi element, and he likes the short story, doesn't think it's great, but recognizes that its significance to the sci-fi, fandom. But what he really likes about it is the isolation of Antarctica and this group of individuals trapped.
Yeah, and then they've also changed, because I think in the original story, it is kind of a shapeshifter that takes people over, and for obvious reasons in 1951 they can't really do that original thing from Another World, so they turned it into kind of like a universal monsters, kind of like a plant Frankenstein monster. With James Arness, who we couldn't remember his name from last cast.
I don't remember what we were talking
Peter
about.
Graves' brother.
Why he came up?
Because we got him confused with what's his face with from the Transformers cast.
By the way, Transformers. There's Transformers G.I. Joe cast.
Yeah, you should definitely check those two out. Robert Stack, we were talking about him. Got confused with James Arness. So in the 51 movie, he's more of just like a plant person, kind of like a Frankenstein.
Very much like like a Karloff. Frankenstein monster.
And that's a great movie. So he Lancaster, the scriptwriter, brings in that element from the story, the original novella, of the shapeshifter, which is really cool.
Yeah, a little more true to the source material.
Yeah.
And together, and Carpenter makes this decision that it's going to be an all-male cast.
Which is interesting, because I heard in an early rewrite they did have some ideas there, and they kind of got rid of that pretty quickly. And also, it turns out to be an all-male crew as well. There's only one woman on there that at the time she was pregnant, she went away, was replaced by a man. So the crew is entirely male as well. Yeah. So that makes it even more
Sausage
unique.
Fest up in British Columbia,
up in Stewart, British Columbia.
Which it's not. You think about it like, I don't know. You think about like, okay, so what's the big deal? But when you think about it, like, how many movies can you really think of where that's the case in terms of like an all-male cast?
Yeah, I mean, there's only like 12 Angry Men maybe, and
I mean, there's not a whole lot. So they set out to make The Thing. Carpenter's talked about how it was the most prep he ever had for a movie. Like, he jumped on it right after he was finished Escape from New York, and he worked on it in pre-production for like over a year or something like that, which is something he had never done before and has never done since. And so they make this movie, and it comes out, and he's feeling like it's his greatest accomplishment. And all of a sudden, it just, like, the critics just, like, tear him a new asshole over it. Like, it practically ruins his career. I mean, he goes into Christine after this, but it was probably something he was already kind of, contractually obligated to do.
Christine.
Yeah, the movie Christine. And then it's like, what's he going to do? I mean, he's basically like poison at this point. So he talks with his management. This is I'll hearsay. I mean, this is the story anyway. He talks to his management, and the management's like, you got to make a nice movie. He's being called like pornographer of gore.
It's a pretty gory movie for the time.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, I guess it's something else to get into, that almost 100% of it all still holds up today, like the special effects in the film. I wouldn't say by today's standards it's very gory. It's kind of frightening, but I think it's done in such a realistic way where I'm a realist. I love it. It's not done for the exploitive kind of a way. For gore's sake. I think it's done to just, further the story, which I think is completely, I wholeheartedly endorse. Was Christine a success?
I think Christine did okay.
It wasn't working off Stephen King's heels.
It wasn't a huge success, but I don't think it didn't bomb or anything. But it really was at the point where people hated the Thing so much that he was a little bit of box office poison in terms of studios wanting to work with him. So that's why he makes Starman. He's like, okay, I made like the ultimate alien horror movie. He's like, I got to do something that's kind of nice. So he makes a love story, which is a magnificent film. I mean, an absolutely beautiful film.
And it's interesting because I wonder if in the preliminary stages of that, if people thought it was a misstep, because it's kind of dancing in the same kind of arena of Alien. It's not like he's doing How Harry Met Sally. He's doing kind of another sci-fi.
Yeah.
And people could be like, dude, you just shit the bed on this one, so to speak, or at least from the critics' point of view. So is this the smartest thing you could ever be doing? Is let's dip my hand in the pool again and do what others,
But he pulled it off. I mean, Bridges got nominated for an Academy Award for it. I mean, it was kind of, that movie Again, I don't think box office wise, I don't think it was a huge hit, but critically it was.
Yeah, people loved it. People still love that movie. People
and-
just like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
And then, that allowed him to make things like Big Trouble in Little China and then go on with his career. I mean, he kind of looks back and says about his career, like, imagine how much different his life would have been had The Thing been a real hit.
That'd have been like the E.T. or something at the time.
But nowadays it's caught like this. It captured an audience in home video and television, and I think that's like a double-edged sword. I mean, one, it's great that a movie takes off eventually, but there's that sting that it didn't on the first pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, now it's probably it's hailed as his greatest movie.
Yeah, but it's always so shitty where it takes time. I mean, to bring up another example, you have the actor Charles Laughton, who did a movie that I love, Night of the Hunter. He directed that. People hated that movie. He never directed anything else. He ended up dying a couple of years later. That's regarded nowadays as a cult classic. You bring up, It's a Wonderful Life. That kind of bombed when it came out. That's a classic now. So it's weird. 30 years or so afterward, they're classics. But when they bomb right then, it's just you just say that to your actors, like, well, hopefully it'll catch fire in the future.
So much importance is put on like that initial box office kind of money, and once like in the 80s with shows like Entertainment Tonight, where people started announcing how much money a movie was making. I mean, that's coming in, like the things coming into that era where like that's like news.
Yeah.
Like people at home are hearing that and don't know why they care, but all of a sudden like they know this, and that's put up as like a measure of the quality of a movie, not whether it's financially successful, but like how good it is.
Yeah. Just really weird in its own kind of because now I think nowadays that's kind of just become such a polarized. People only look at it like that. It's like, well,
it didn't make any money. Like, so what?
I know it still could be great, and as we've said, but it's weird. So yeah, you have a lot of factors going into making a film where you think you just be done with it, and then you go on to your next project, and it's like you have to worry about all the backlash of probably like a year later, if you stop production, principal photography, and then a year later you could be doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And then you're already like dealing with it's a flop. It's what are you gonna do with your career? Well, it's like, well, I think it's good. I mean, at the time, it didn't seem like anybody really appreciated the movie. I mean, even the critics were just like, it's too gory. It's not doesn't.
They called it overproduced, which I don't really get. It's just. Like uncalled for, like everybody who kind of widely regarded Rob Bottin's effects, who did the special effects for the movie. Rob Bottin, young guy, he was like 20 when he did that movie, but
ridiculous.
He had done The Howling, which was like his first big success, and then he shortly after that he got asked to do The Thing, and so even then, like it was being, like his efforts were being recognized as being kind of brilliant. Which the fact today, when you watch it now, it is like amazing how well that stuff holds up.
I know it's especially because I don't think any of it's CGI.
No. I mean that didn't even exist yet.
Exactly. I mean,
you saw
it did, but it's like
in the movie you see where computer graphics are at with Wilford Brimley like looking at the cells.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. It's like that's how primitive it is. I mean, so there's nothing. I mean, I don't even think there's any kind of like. Even like computer trickery in it, there's matte paintings and stuff, but it's all practicals, it's all miniature, it's unbelievable how well it's still kind of just
I mean, aside from, there are things about it that are dated, but the effects are less dated in that than like I just watched a couple weeks ago. We kind of talked about it briefly, not on the show, but in our private lives, how I did like a double feature of like Mimic and The Relic.
Oh yes.
And and The Thing, like, and those both movies are something totally different, and I enjoyed them.
But it's an example of.
But it's like these hold up, but these are less dated when you watch them now. They look better than those movies.
Well, it's sad. As a side note, I had never seen The Relic. And I've always wanted to, and it just fell through the cracks. So I watched it not too long ago for the first time, and that's sad when you're 20 years too late to a movie, you know. And
I saw that at the movies.
Yeah, and you know how you would have loved this freaking movie when you'd seen it come out because it would have been awesome. But now it looks like, you know, it looks like a freaking computer game. It's like I said to you, I watched Event Horizon not too long ago. Event Horizon is still a great movie, but it's so weird at the beginning when you see all those effects of like they were really trying to sell like no gravity, so you see stuff floating by, and it looks all real
like
crappy now.
Cartoon pill bottles.
Yeah,
like
and like, but at the time you're like, wow, it's really there. And it's so weird how your eye for the time will accept that trickery, but then nowadays it really can just make a movie fall flat or take the audience out. You know, if the effects are that hampering, especially CGI. CGI, I think, is horribly unforgiving. So if you have some bad CGI in your movie, that shit doesn't hold up. I mean, you know, let's take out young Sherlock Holmes. Young Sherlock Holmes. That'll always hold up. That's CGI. But like, you know, but it's. I mean, when you have stuff like, you know. Like the Relic, that it's sad, you know, and it's still a kind of okay movie. I prefer The Mimic better, but you're right. Like it's weird how, you know, that movie was done 10, 15 years later, but The Thing from '82 still holds up. But it's because of the practical photography.
Yeah.
You know, that stuff's all done practically.
Yeah, I mean, look at just look at the talent behind that movie. Okay, we got Carpenter. Dean Cundy, cinematographer, who had, you know, don't know if he necessarily got his like true start with Carpenter, but they came up together, and he had done Halloween and The Fog and Escape from New York and excuse me, and Rob Bottin, young, crazy effects guy.
Albert Whitlock.
Yeah, Albert Whitlock, who had worked for Hitchcock.
He did The Birds for Hitchcock. He's a matte painter, a matte artist. He did The Birds. He did Marnie.
He did like all of his movies, like post The Birds.
Yeah,
basically.
He did Earthquake, big Irwin Allen hit in the '70s, and Hindenburg. So, and then you have Stan Winston comes in. And he does a little bit there for the dog scene at the beginning.
Yeah, basically what happened was Rob Bottin was just over. You know, schedule, like just had too much shit.
He's overwhelmed with everything.
So he brought in Stan Winston and Stan Winston's people to do the kennel scene with the dogs.
Yeah, at the beginning.
But Stan Winston has always been like very much like that's Rob's movie. We just came in and helped out. It was really his thing. Winston. You know, he doesn't never hesitant to take like any credit for it.
He's like what's his name? Dick Smith. You know, he's right of their own heart. Those two peas in a pod. Those two of them.
Stan Winston, and then music wise, we got Ennio Morricone doing the score,
and it's the first movie Carpenter didn't do the score for.
Yeah, I mean in the catalog of Carpenter's work, I mean he didn't do the score for the Thing, he didn't do the score for Starman,
okay,
and maybe The Ward is the next movie,
which is fairly recently,
which is like his most recent. I can't think of another movie that he didn't do the score for. He might not have done the score for Escape from L.A. Shirley Walker.
Well, they collaborated together,
but but she's basing it off of his work. His score from the original
theme. So he's one to say, we've talked about in Halloween 3, we talked about his scoring and stuff when we did that podcast. But he has some. He's not just doing a theme and that's or score and that's the end of it. He has some really good scores that are like, you know, I mean, he's like Ennio Morricone, where he has, you know, he'll have a movement, you'll have a theme for the movie that'll follow the entire time, and you could pick them out. Like I still to this day, I know, you know, we all know Halloween. You know, I love Assault on Precinct 13s. You like Halloween 3, although he didn't direct it, he did the score.
Yeah.
What else? Escape from New York has its own great theme that you know.
Theme.
So a lot of his stuff.
I love In the Mouth of Madness.
In the Mouth of Madness
of his scores.
So it's like his scores are very for people like a guy Jay Marcus for the Podwits, you know, who likes scores and stuff. He's a guy you go out and you sought after his score. So it's interesting to bring Ennio in, but then at the same time, he wasn't completely satisfied with what Morricone was giving him.
Yeah, so basically how it worked was, one, there's a language barrier. And so Carpenter has to fly to Italy to meet with Morricone the first time. There's a translator, and they talk. And
you all should know who Morricone is. If you don't, stop this podcast now. Go look at a book, read about it, and go learn something.
We don't have time to go into it right now.
Jeez Louise.
So he goes and he meets with Morricone, and they talk about it. So there's two ways to score a movie, basically. You get a rough cut of the movie, and you write music to the movie. The other way is based on maybe some stuff or the script and discussions with the director.
Cough it all up. Yeah. He took some expectorants.
The composer will write cues and give the director cues, and then the director will edit them in how he wants. That's how director is working with a library of music, like Romero did a lot of his early work with just like stock music, and then you would edit it in how you see fit. So Morricone says, look, I can do it this way, I could do it that way. Carpenter says, why don't you just write shit and give it to me, and I'll stick it in the movie.
I know you're good already.
So Morricone starts sending him cues, and it's just, according to Carpenter, it's just not right. Like he's like, it's beautiful, but it's not The Thing. So he has to meet with Morricone again, and he says, okay, it's great, but I need less notes. I need it to be less. Alan Howarth, who collaborated with Carpenter on most of his 80s scores, says that Carpenter actually played him the Escape from New York score, but Carpenter's never kind of admitted to that. But he basically says that he told Morricone,
less.
Great, but just give me less. It needs to be
un poco lesso.
So then Morricone comes back with the theme, which I think it's Carpenter's such. He's
minimalist.
But he's like an enigma in a way. He's he's a guy that hates the credit directed by John Carpenter, because he's a film by John Carpenter, because he's a film is a collaborative medium, a film by one person that's absurd. But all of his movies are John Carpenter's The Thing, so he takes ownership of it that way. And he talks about how making music for his movies at the beginning was a necessity because of budget. But then he gets to a point where he doesn't need that.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to do it. And he decides to do it because it's more, it's more of him taking ownership of the film. So here's an instance where he has arguably the greatest, definitely most people would say top 5 film music composers of all time, doing his music for his movie. A legend. It would be like Bernard Herrmann doing it for you. I mean, it's that's how important Ennio Morricone is.
Yeah, of course.
And he says to Ennio Morricone, essentially, "Oh, what you're doing is great, but make it sound like me. Just do John Carpenter." The Ennio Morricone stuff's great, but I need you to do John Carpenter music.
And then he almost ran out of cues as well. I mean, when they were getting to the final post-production editing stage, he didn't even have enough, so he was starting to, they say he's kind of filling in the blanks himself.
So then he's in the editing, and he realizes that there's holes in the movie that need music, and the music he has doesn't work. So he can say, I can go through the rigmarole of getting a translator, calling up Ennio Morricone, trying to get him to write more music. He says, I can go into Alan Howarth's studio in Glendale. Props.
Glendale, California.
Old stomping ground for Dion and I.
Yeah.
And
Not that we grew up there, but we had some fun times there. Recorded a couple of casts there as well.
We did.
Sidecasts. Pirates.com.
And I could just do a couple of pieces of music. So he goes in, and then in a day, he does a couple of pieces of music
that stay within the confines, sound, and fit seamlessly in.
Basically, and then they're not on the soundtrack. He's not credited for any of it. he'll downplay it to no end. Like, oh, what I did, it's carpet. I mean, it's like I didn't do anything. It's just tones. Like I can't even take credit for doing music because what I did was so stupid and so like little. But other than the actual theme,
Dum, 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 dum.
other than that, which is definitely was definitely Morricone. Like the music that's truly memorable about that movie, that like really makes that movie, are those like 3 cues that he did.
Carpenter's.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And since we're talking about sound, when it was released on VHS, it was one of the first stereo surround. They called it matrixed surround tracks. So when people were starting to, with their VCRs, being able to have some sort of stereo surround, or I guess a very simple Dolby surround, this tape offered the surround sound experience with like the helicopter going by and stuff like that. Yeah. So the film basically is about 12 dudes.
Now I got 45 minutes into this thing. Let's talk about the plot.
12 dudes at a research station on the South Pole, Antarctica, which is interesting because the Howard Hawks film took place at the North Pole. They're doing their thing, whatever you do out there at a research station.
Yeah, it's unclear like what exactly they're doing.
It's scientists, but
it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter.
You know, it's interesting because none of them seem somewhat as much scientists as like they just seem like they're babysitting. You know, they're just, you know,
they're like Jack Nicholson from The Shining.
Yeah, they're just like hanging out there, trying to stay sane. They're drinking.
Well, we
have
pot. McCready, played by Kurt Russell.
Yep,
he's a pilot.
Yeah, so he's there for he's and his backstory, which they never really talk about, is supposedly he came up with it. He's ex-Nam helicopter pilot. He was very disenchanted with the world after that, so now that's why he's stuck.
We got Palmer, who is like the stoner.
Yeah,
who I guess is the other pilot.
Yeah, one would think he's the other kind of pilot that would
like they have 2 pilots.
Yeah.
Then we have like 3 doctors. We have Blair, played by Wilford Brimley.
God bless him.
Doc Cooper, old guy with a nose ring.
I know.
Baffles me to this day.
It's so interesting. You don't realize in the first or second or third or fourth. I don't know how many.
Especially because when we're watching it as kids, we're watching it like on VHS or on TV, and
you can't tell.
I don't know. I mean, but now when you watch it,
really
projected on a big screen or now like in high def.
I only realized it a couple years ago that he has a nose ring. You know, and he's completely just like. Oh, okay, whatever. And then the third guy, Fuchs, I guess.
Fuchs is like the other third, like doctor guy.
Yeah. Then you have like the boss,
Gary, who carries the gun and holds the keys.
Yeah. And then you have
Childs,
played by Keith David, who I don't know.
Not sure what he does there.
Yeah, he's just muscle, and he's young too. He's like 25 in the time when he did this movie.
The other black guy, Knowles, I guess is the cook.
Yeah, that we'd know him from. Punky Brewster. He was Punky Brewster's teacher in the 80s.
And he was also in
first season of
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell.
Good Morning, Miss Bliss years.
And he also played a brilliant role in the Sweetback, the remake of Jesus. What's his name? Melvin Peoples. Mario Van Peebles movie he did about his father, Melvin, doing Sweetback's song. Badass, whatever. He plays as a cameo Bill Cosby in the movie, and he's amazing because Melvin was trying to get money to finish Badass's sweet song. It's called Badass. That's the name of it. And he goes to Cosby, and he plays a great role as Cosby. And I always said if they ever made a Cosby biopic, he should play Cosby. You know. And then who else do we have?
We got Clark, who takes care of the dogs.
Clark, who we also know from he's in Shoot to Kill, a great movie with Tom Berenger and Sidney Poitier, and he's also for you and I. He's in the Mr. Boogedy movie, the Disney ABC Sunday night movie, Mr. Boogedy.
The first one you mentioned, actually, both of those were movies that we watched together at sleep, like our own little sleep.
Which one? Shoot to Kill?
Yeah, we watched that.
My dad loves that. It's a great movie.
Your dad's VHS tape.
Yeah, that and Tom Berenger, Christy Alley. That's a great movie, and we know him from them. And then we have
Windows,
who is from
the communications officer.
Yeah, he's the radio guy. He's from the Warriors.
And
he's from some other stuff. I actually saw him in something recently. Well, recent as in like it was in the 90s. And I was like, oh, look, he's still acting, or was.
And Bennings. I'm not sure what Bennings does other than like complain.
Yeah, he's
the complainer.
He's a ginger-haired guy with balding on top and his beard. So that's basically the whole.
That's our crew.
That's our team, and they're at what is it they call the thing? They're at the British Antarctica Research Station, part of their midwinter I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Evidently, part of the British Antarctica Research Station Midwinter Feast that they have on June 21st. It is a thing they do every year. Is they watch The Thing down in Antarctica. That's the tradition they have. But what they're at, like research station number 4, isn't that what they call it? Maybe the name of their research station.
Exactly what they're.
And I don't know what the heck they're doing down there.
We don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're just doing stuff, checking snow levels. It's still snowing.
So the movie opens with a helicopter chasing a dog through the snow.
Jed the dog. God bless Jed the dog.
He makes it to the camp where everybody just talked about lives and works. And they try to
Well, prior to that, we fade up and we see a little UFO.
Yeah.
That thing flies by, enters the Earth's atmosphere, very much like I think the opening of Predator too. Doesn't it have the opening of Predator that way?
A little nod from the Predator,
and then another nod to the original. Then we have the title card.
The
flares up,
burn-in.
and it's the same font as the original's The Thing.
Yeah.
And then we cut to like this. It gives us 1982 Antarctica, and then it comes up to this very, very picturesque, like beautiful vistas. And then we see this helicopter, and we see this dog running, and then it's like, what the hell is going on? And these guys in a helicopter trying to shoot a dog with a high-powered sniper rifle, and you're very confused. Then we meet our crew at the Antarctica number 4 station, chilling, and you see like every day there, they're playing ping pong, they're watching VHS tapes of tape TV.
Yeah, McCready's playing chess and
drinking whiskey.
I wonder, that J&B bottle that's like so prominent in that scene, and then in other scenes, that's a very Italian, like Giallo. Like that's the brand
that they drink. JB.
Yeah, and like it's always like product placement. I know, clearly the Italians are not getting product placement money for it in like the old Giallo movies.
Yeah,
but it's like for some reason, like it's that bottle, that brand is just like, if you watch like any Giallo movie from the 70s and into the 80s, like that's what they're drinking.
It's also interesting to note that there's as we said, no females in the cast, but supposedly it's uncredited, but Adrienne Barbeau is supposed to be the voice of the computer, the female voice.
Yeah, but where does I don't remember a computer talking.
She said something. She says like checkmate or whatever, and then he pours it in. He says, "Yo, you're a dirty bitch."
Yeah.
He swears at it.
Bitch or something like that.
And he pours his whiskey and fries the machine. It's very what is that, 4-bit or whatever, 2-bit graphics.
I don't know. It's beautiful.
And then all of a sudden they hear the gunshots, and then the dog runs into their camp, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's a great looking husky." And then the helicopter lands, and they're speaking Norwegian
or whatever. I don't know what if their language is called something else.
Yeah, we should know.
Yeah, so I don't know how much detail we want to get into. They drop a grenade. Guy tries to find it.
The helicopter pilot tries to find it. He blows himself up. The other guy with the gun.
The end blows up the helicopter. The other guy, which I love the goggles.
Yeah.
With just like this little slit.
Just that one slit. He's ranting in Norwegians, and they're like, they don't know, and he's still shooting.
He tries to shoot the dog, shoots Bennings in the leg.
By accident. And walks right past the crew going after the dog.
He's not interested in the crew. He's trying to kill the dog.
Turns the corner, and Gary shoots him in the head because Gary had his little side-out revolver, and he's very upset that he did it, and as he should be. And he one shot, one kill right to the head.
It's really like a brilliant opening.
Oh, draws you right in.
It pulls you right in. It's like this element of the unknown. It sets up the mystery.
And it's interesting.
Like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, we have a mystery. Who is this guy? Why is he chasing this dog?
Yeah, who are they?
And then we find and then they're the things that bring us to our main characters.
The language barrier even makes it more confusing. And it's interesting how Carpenter sets up the movie, how he has this space of time and the passage of time. It's the dissolves, which usually nowadays annoy the hell out of me. To me, you could pick a low-budget movie out by the use of dissolves. But in this movie, it works brilliantly.
Carpenter's use of fades and basically like dips to white is like one of my favorite things about this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, it seems to be there's like a big stigma against it now. A lot of people hate dissolves and fades, and they think about it being like old or cliche or whatever, or too many, whatever. But it's like the pacing of this movie.
Well, you don't even notice it in the first.
It's just
viewing.
like perfect, and when they're like outside, it kind of slowly dips to white because of the snow, I guess, and then back into like the next shot, the next scene, and when they're inside, it goes to black, or it'll fade to black and then just cut.
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily fade back in. Really, I mean, this is one of those movies we talk about. Perfect movies. You know, we've talked, for us about. Recently, we talked about one because you were like, you think
the Terminator cast.
Oh, which is
which we just did.
Yeah. So we talked about this with Terminator. Like, to me, this I can't think of anything that could have been done to make this movie any better.
Yeah.
Like, it just works on like every level. Everything from the music to the casting. Which, by the way, we forgot one guy, Norris, is also in.
He's one of the 12.
The 12 guys, and he plays a really kind of significant part in the first half of the movie. And but this movie just, he just fucking nails it. I mean, the script is good. Just like, and its pacing is just like, by today's standards, people might think it's slow, but it's just perfect, and the way kind of it unravels.
I wouldn't say it's slow, but it's just
like
it's setting things up, and it's interesting because like I guess to touch on how brilliant of a portrayal Wilbur Brimley plays in this movie. I mean, he's so good in this movie, and I don't know if you even noticed the first couple times you watch it, what's going on with his character and what's happening, and and then halfway through the movie you think he's a raving lunatic, but it's just it's all this character development, and the pacing helps that, especially at the beginning. They get the dog's moving around camp, and then they're finally like, yo, Clark, you need to lock, because Clark is the one also who handles all the dogs, because I guess every camp must have a dog because you have dog sleds.
Yeah.
So he puts this dog in with the other dogs. Shit goes down.
This is where shit goes. Now I can't even imagine.
That's the rest of the movie.
Just imagine. I mean, this is another thing we talked about with like the Terminator cast. Like, imagine seeing Terminator for the first time. Not like, how was it advertised? Like, what do you know about it going in? So imagine The Thing. You sit down. I mean, like, what do you know about what's going on so far? And then this is the fucking reveal.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine like how fucking mind blowing
Those
it
poor
would be.
fucking dogs, man.
Oh man, nothing
Jesus.
more heartbreaking than that one dog trying to bite his way out of the cage.
Oh yeah, biting, and then it's shooting that shit out of
shooting
it.
Goop at him.
Yeah, I mean,
now I will. Now, on a personal note, as a collector, which we've talked about in other casts of art.
On the side cast.
And comic book art and animation art and stuff. The guy that did the storyboard artists for The Thing is a comic book artist named Mike Ploog.
Okay.
Ploog. Did a lot of horror comics and stuff. Kind of a legend. And I am fortunate enough to own, so far, only 4, but I own 4 original storyboards by Mike Ploog, and they're from this kennel scene.
Wow.
And my favorite one, which is like the least grotesque or whatever, or action-packed, it's the shot of the dog laying like on the straw, like just facing the wall with the other dog sleeping behind him.
Yeah.
And like, what I love about that shot, and it's like one of my favorite shots in the whole movie, it's like the oddness of it. Like,
Well, it's weird because the dog comes in.
He just
the other
walks
dogs are
in.
like against the wall. They're where they usually are. Maybe they're with
Yeah.
friends, and he just sits down because he's the outcast. He sits down just
sits
right.
right in the middle,
and then
lays down and just faces straight ahead.
And there was this huge internet debate that I was reading about before we watched the movie. That like, why don't the dogs know immediately? And I'm wondering. Dogs are usually very good about sensing things, but I wonder if The Thing is so good that it's not going to reveal itself until until it wants to, and then that's when the dogs are like, "Oh, wait a minute," because the dogs, in a second, they start realizing when it starts doing stuff, the dog's like, "Fuck, fuck, 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 fuck," and for me, it's so terrifying that you see what's happening, and then like not Carpenter,
but that one shot. I was telling a friend of mine who is maybe even more of a Carpenter fanatic than I am. I was talking to my buddy Dave about this storyboard.
Yeah.
And I was talking about, like,
Dave, who you referenced in our Halloween 3 cast.
I said, I don't know why, but I just love this. And he's like, well, that shot is like, that could be the poster for the movie. Like, that shot is a metaphor for the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's like the oddball, like, and they're in the kennel. I mean, they're trapped in a cage with this thing, and they don't know. So, like, and he just kind of, like, blew my mind in that, like, on some subconscious level, like, what draws me to that image is that one shot. That scene in the movie is like a metaphor for the entire movie.
Well, maybe we'll figure out how to include a couple of your stills so we can show people what you have, and then they can gawk over what they don't own and you do.
Yeah.
Look at you. I find it so terrifying for me that Russell is just minding his own business, grabs a beer, and then you hear this echo, and you don't know what it is, and he hears it, and I guess in the theater it must have been freaky to hear that, and then he must know something's wrong, pops the alarm, and everything starts going down, and there's so much crazy stuff going on in this scene with the dogs, and they come in, and all the dogs are basically dead or just fucking cracked out, the ones that are able to escape, and they have to try to like settle down with sedatives, and then they end up burning the thing. Keith David comes in with the flamethrower. I don't know why they have a flamethrower in Antarctica, but they must have it.
Yeah, they got like 3 of them at least.
So at least it's able to melt things quickly, and they do have a weapons depot. So and they're able to burn the thing, and there's so much great little things going on there where you don't really see like the right before they burn it, the thing that comes out towards them is like. It's
dog tongues.
Dog tongues, yeah, and it looks like a little flower, and it's like shooting towards them. There's a lot of little stuff.
It's one of the most like groundbreaking. We talked about Rob Bottin's effects, and furthermore than the effects themselves, the concept of it. Now, the short story we talked about being more of a shapeshifter story, but Rob Bottin comes to John Carpenter with this idea of like, let's not put limits on ourselves. Like, this thing has imitated things from throughout space, we don't even know. Like, so it doesn't have to look like anything we've ever seen before. Like, we can stretch our imaginations because we could see pieces of everything it's ever imitated.
Yeah.
And so Carpenter's like, holy shit, like, go down to Plug's office, sit down with the storyboard artist and start drawing. Tell him what you want. And let's start seeing, like, sketches of, like, just crazy, like, imaginative stuff. And, like, that's the beauty. That's like, the biggest beautiful thing about this movie is that, like, we get, like, it's basically like having like a young, hungry genius of an artist, like, allowed to just let go.
Yeah.
And just let his imagination fucking run wild. And, like, there aren't too many examples of that, especially in cinema, especially in like big budget cinema where like that gets to happen. So like the things that he comes up with for this movie are so extreme and out there that, like, I think it's one of the things that, like, as much as like he got celebrated for like his effects, I think that's one of the things like people couldn't handle about it. It was like, it was just too fucking far out there.
Now, have we missed already? They decide to go look at the Norwegian camp. That's already happened. So they fly over.
That's already happened.
They fly over the Norwegian camp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important plot point. I don't know, like, I don't know how much of like we actually need to get into like the nuts and bolts of like the story, but that is like a really important plot point. Like, when we watched this movie in class, when we were at film school, our teacher was like, we're going to watch the remake of The Thing. And he came up and, as he's walking into the projection booth, I said to him, like, it's not really a remake. Like, in a lot of ways, you can kind of think of it as like a weird sequel. If you think of like the original movie as being the Norwegians,
Yeah, this is the next.
You know, like this is kind of what happens next, because what happens is McCready and Doc Cooper, they take a helicopter and they go to the Norwegian camp to see what happens. And it's like, it's burnout. There's a guy who's fucking slit his own throat and his own wrists.
Yeah.
I mean, like, shit has gone down.
Yeah,
There's people that are burned.
There's axes in the wall. There's clearly they've barricaded areas. The place is completely toast, and then there's a big block of ice.
And then there's a big block of ice with like a hole in the middle of it. Now, one thing I would say about like the most recent quote-unquote Thing movie, which is like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Which is not great. It's supposedly a remake, but it's really it's the prequel. It's what happens at the Norwegian camp. The one thing I will say that's fun about it, if you haven't seen it and you're a lover of John Carpenter's The Thing, and maybe you haven't seen it because, like, you know, that's why. Like, you love John Carpenter, you don't want to see some crappy version of it. The one thing I will say that's fun about it is they went through like painstaking efforts to like detail how the Norwegian camp gets that way.
Yeah, so that
so when you watch the John Carpenter's, you see why the axe is in the wall. You see why certain holes in the walls are there. You see why the guy who slit his throat and his, like, everything. Like, for that, I give them like crazy props, because they do a really good job of like the quote the thing that they find outside before they leave. Like, you see why that's there and why it's burned and all that stuff. So
they should have just paid a little more attention on the plot.
Yeah, they should have made a better movie.
Yeah.
But it is kind of fun in that sense.
Because there's points in that movie that are just completely idiotic.
Yeah.
But so, you know, I guess you're right. We don't need to go through the entire thing, but it's almost like a giallo or a detective story. Why is this happening this way? It's more clues, and then
they find videotapes,
and then you see the videotapes,
and you see them circling the spaceship in ice, which is a shot right. Like, it's not, they didn't use the exact footage, but it's a shot right out of the original thing where they're like, look how fucking big this thing is.
It's huge, and they blow it up, and then they go look, and they find the remnants of the spacecraft, and we get into some matte paintings there, how big it is.
Beautiful matte work
by
Whitlock.
And they go down and they take a look at it and they're like, fuck, this thing is an alien, and they get back and they're like, you know, this shit's gonna. And then we have Blair, Wilford Brimley's character, he's doing some post-mortem work on the dog stuff that they killed. And this is, in watching the movie this past viewing, really, I think, grosses me out the most, is that as the movie progresses, you learn that, like, you know, just because you shoot the thing doesn't mean it's dead. So,
like they're all handling blood.
And you find out later on that's how they're like, okay, let's test the blood. And that becomes a huge thing in the movie where, you know, because they realize that every part of it's alive, so it's going to, you know, try to run away from a hot, you know. So
one of the things I love about it is that, like, McCready, who's like the helicopter pilot, he, you know, originally that role was just supposed to be like another member of the ensemble, and there wasn't going to be like a hero, you know. And then that got rewritten, but it is funny that, like, he's the guy that kind of figures out that he invents the tests.
Yeah, he's the one that's like, oh, well, we can try this, a hot blade, you know, maybe his madness. It's to play the What If game. They had Nick Nolte and Jeff Bridges up for the role as McCready. For Childs, Keith David's character, they had Ernie Hudson was literally signed on.
Nice.
They were considering Isaac Hayes, because he just worked with Carpenter and Escape from New York. Jeffrey Holder, Bernie Casey, Carl Weathers, you know. And then for Cooper, they had William Daniels or Brian Dennehy. So that would have been a completely different movie. And also Eastwood as McCready was thought about. And I think Eastwood could have did it back in '82. And then for Blair, Wilford Brimley's character, Donald Pleasance. But because Donald Pleasance had some other contractual obligations, he couldn't get out of it. If that, I think we would have had Pleasance in there playing Wilford Brimley's part.
That would have been a really interesting, like, you can picture Pleasance.
That's the,
like, in that scene where he's losing his shit.
And then you have the round out. They were thinking to round out the cast: Lee Van Cleef, Kevin Conway, Powers Booth, and Jerry Orbach. So how crazy of that's your ultimate movie right there, you know, the What If game. But so Wilford Brimley starts taking the thing apart. And I find that disgusting because, I mean, the visuals are gross. He's like opening a vagina.
Yeah. Well, that's
it's
another
very phallic.
That's another thing that I think, reason why it gets this like gory, that the pornographer of gore handle that Carpenter gets. I think, especially for 1982. I mean, there's this idea of like today we see things like autopsies and shows about it, and autopsies being portrayed in movies, and the cliche of the guy eating a sandwich while he's doing it and stuff. But here's like an instance where like you're really seeing it like in I mean, even though what he's performing the autopsy on is like an alien, like the way it's handled is very realistic. So we are seeing like
and it looks
of blood
very real.
and pulling out guts.
They use all real guts for it and all that. I mean, his reaction was like, "Oh my god, this is
It's like that thing where like people, if you're a hunter and you hunt deer or whatever and you eat the meat, like you clean it and like that's what you do.
You're cutting the animal.
But like people that don't hunt, like that's disgusting, but they wouldn't mind like buying a steak at the
That's
supermarket.
foraging to them, yeah.
Like as long as it doesn't look like a real animal.
Yeah.
Like,
when they're confronted by that, they're like, I don't know if I should.
But there's a way for it to get there. So I mean, I think that's part of the reason why it's like was hard for people to accept was like that stuff in the movie.
So for me watching it, it's just so freaky to think that every part of that thing is alive, and I guess it's just biding its time. Because then they realize at one point they have to burn everything, and that's what Wilford Brimley's character is brilliant. He starts systematically realizing, wait a minute, what's going on? He asks Clark, how long were you alone with that dog? And he's like, all day. And he's like, the dog had the free reign. He's like, wait a minute, you're telling me the dog had free reign of this whole place? And then he does a little test on his computer and he realizes if the thing got out. Yeah. So that scene when he has this breakdown, which you think is nonsense, he starts.
Should we give us? Is there a spoiler coming up? There's something we should potential spoiler coming up.
Yeah. Spoilers galore in this. He starts destroying everything. He destroys the radio, destroys the half tracks for them to get out of there. He destroys the helicopters, because he doesn't want them to make it out. He's trashing all the electronics with an axe, and he's just going on and on. But if you listen to what he's saying, he's talking the truth. He's like, you think that thing wanted to be a dog? No, he didn't want it. It supposed to be one of us.
He doesn't want to be a dog.
He wants to be one of us. You can't get all your miles. Be a dog. And then that scene when they finally overpower him, and he lets off 5 shots. He's out of his gun. It looks like they really knock him out. It looks like they really knock him out.
Like,
they really take him down. He's like, oh, and then they put him outside. It's just like he's
the other like the other shot that I love in that scene is like because Windows is trapped in there with him. He's basically destroying the radio room.
Yeah, all the communications.
All the communication stuff. So Windows is like sitting in the corner, like beat up a little bit.
Yeah, I think he got.
And he's just trying to stay out of it. And so like he's just part at the end where he's trying to get up, and then he just kind of
falls back down.
Falls back down, like kind of blank-eyed. Now that the reason why I said spoiler alert is because there's an argument that I think we've probably even had. Okay, so like
how
Blair's losing his shit.
Yeah,
and all that makes sense because Blair looks at it. He puts it into the computer. Computer's like, probability of one or more people in the group being infected is 75%. So then he puts in like, how long is it going to take? If it makes it to like civilization, how fast is like the entire world population? It's like 27,000 hours.
Yeah,
like the entire world to be infected by this thing. So we see that he's losing his shit. We think that he's damaging all this stuff so that it can't leave the camp. Now, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, we find out that Blair's the Thing. Or one of them.
Yeah.
So, like, when does he become it? Is he losing his shit because he wants to be isolated? Because we find out that he didn't destroy the helicopter so they can't leave. He's harvesting the parts to make a spaceship.
So you think it was almost?
I'm not saying that's what I think.
I know, but I'm saying your argument could be that he's setting himself up to be put out there because he knows if he's put out there, he's then isolated and he has time to be with his own self and he could be doing whatever he wants out there.
Now the only argument against it is
the second part when they go because
there's a brilliant scene where they go out.
They leave him up there and he tells them watch Clark. Clark's the only one that's been alone with that dog. So. For me, I would think he's not the Thing yet. But I would say once he's out there, he probably gets taken over very soon. And then then the second brilliant scene, they go up to see if he's okay. And he's got a noose in the back.
There's a noose hanging.
And he's
just like, I want to come in.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
I'm okay now.
Maybe I lost my shit, but I'm all right now.
I'm all right. Hey, McCready, don't leave. I'm all right now. You know, it's like, I think by that time he's already the Thing, you know. And yeah, below the station, he's made an ingenious tunnel system that would make the Viet Cong in Vietnam envious. And he's made this huge... it's not very huge. It looks like it's something out of the Jetsons, but it's a personal, you know, UFOs.
Still, I mean, it's some nice. It's like smooth. Some nice metal work going on.
He's just soldering and galore. So it's amazing. Yeah, because then at the end of the movie, he is the one thing that is. See, then you don't. Then it's all these. It can be a whole cast for other speculation.
Here's the
things.
Here's the
know
thing
each
about
other.
the thing.
You know, do they know if they're the things, or if
that's
they do know, or
that's the one like really big mystery of the movie that never gets answered, and you could argue whether it should be or not. It's like you really don't understand how it works.
Does it need to?
Like, how does it infect? Does it infect the person that's in there, and then from the inside become like a disease? But it's ripping through clothes. You know what I mean? Like, it's unclear about like when you become doubled, what happens, and if it's a new being, what happens to the old body?
Well, I think it consumes it or whatever. But my point is, once it's a thing,
is it all one entity like the Borg?
Yeah. Does it know, or is it a collective? Is there a rivalry, or is there like kind of like if two dogs are the Thing? Yeah, can they go together and be like the Borg, or is it more like it's one for all and all for one? Because hence when they're getting hurt, they all scramble. Yeah. I mean, we won't have enough time to hit every beat in this film, but there's so much stuff going on. With the Carpenter purposely starts throwing like chum in the water for you, thinking it's this person, that person.
Some red herring action.
You think it's McCready, you don't think it's McCready, you think it's Clark.
And like the despair of this movie is like, I mean, it's become known as part of what the fans call his like apocalypse or his end of the world trilogy, which is starting with The Thing, then Prince of Darkness, and then In the Mouth of Madness, which honestly are three of my favorite movies of his. If I had like a top five, those would be like in the top. Those three would be in the top five. And so it's so fucking bleak. I mean, and that scene where like we're talking about when they first put Brimley in like the tool shed, and he's like, I just don't know who to trust anymore. And McCready's like, well, trust is a hard thing to come by these days. And then McCready's like, well, why don't you just trust in the Lord? And then you have like the McCready makes the audio tape.
Yeah, it's weird. He's keeping an auto diary on cassette of what's happening.
Yeah, he's just like, in case something happens, like he wants some record of it. Although after burning the entire camp down, who knows what are the chances?
And it's amazing how Carpenter frames that. I mean, you see him in the foreground, and you're expecting something's going to pop up in the background.
Yeah, it's basically like he's on the right half of the screen, and then the second half of the screen, like still kind of in focus, is like the hallway.
Yeah, they use a great thing in this movie called the diopter split focus lens.
Yeah,
and they use it for great effect in this movie. One part where
De Palma at that point in his career, De Palma was using the shit out of that.
Yeah,
thing.
It's such a cool because you can keep two different things, one in the foreground, one in the background.
But Carpenter uses it for like less. Like he's more sparingly and less noticeably, like not like in your face.
And some of it was lost from the widescreen transfer to like the VHS version, because like the instance where Clark grabs a scalpel in the foreground, you see his hand behind his hand, he's hiding the scalpel, and in the background is all the action. You wouldn't see that on
I mean, so basically what Dion saying, he kind of mentioned it briefly, is it allows you to have two things in focus that are at two different depths. I mean, normally a lens is like one eye, and you can only have like one distance from the camera be in focus. And what this allows you to do is to have two distances, something that's at 3 feet and then something that's at 10 feet. those two things are in focus and everything else is kind of out of focus. It's a really kind of cool thing that got used a lot kind of in the 80s and stuff. But Carpenter used it kind of brilliantly as a storytelling device instead of being kind of flashy. That scene that you're talking about with Clark and the scalpel, and Carpenter's just his use and Cundy's use of the widescreen format. I mean, Carpenter shoots at 2.35, basically the widest that people shoot in, and it's like the letterboxing. I mean, not the letterboxing, but the pan and scan business of like the 80s. It was like a sin.
Yeah.
On Carpenter movies. Like if there's one director from like the 70s and 80s that you really need to watch his shit in widescreen, it's Carpenter's.
Yeah, the cinematography is brilliant in the movie. Like the use of dollies or just handheld.
Yeah, beautiful camera
tracking
moves.
shots around. And also, there's a number of great, and it's not forced, ensemble moments. Where at the beginning, when you know they first come across, they put out the dog kennel, and they're all standing there, and the music comes. Or later on, when they burn the body, and one of them outside is them. Or at the very beginning, when they're tending to the Norwegians, you have them all together, kind of like figuring out, and you see the ensemble cast. And I really love that.
It's a beautiful ensemble piece, and Carpenter's way of handling it technically. I mean, for people that don't work in the business. I mean, I'm an editor, so by profession. So it's things like this are a little bit more noticeable to me. I mean, like to cover a scene where you're covering that many people,
it's tough.
It's a tough thing to make the choices of where the camera needs to be, what you need to see. It's very tricky to cross over like the director's line, and it's a very slippery slope. You could screw it up really easy just with one shot being wrong. You screw up the whole scene, and he does a beautiful job of covering 12 people.
Yeah, very well. I guess we should hit on a couple more points before we close out of this bad boy. I mean, there's the one scene where they literally pin it on Kurt Russell to be in the thing.
Yeah,
he's able to make his way back in, and there's a big scuffle. One of the guy has a heart attack. They bring him into the
that's Norris.
Norris. They bring him in. We know him from Hunter from the 80s. He's the captain in Hunter.
Yeah.
They bring him into the infirmary. Cooper gets on the table. Cooper's trying to give him CPR because he's in cardiac arrest. The fucking thing's chest opens. Cooper with the pads go into his chest. Scared the shit. I'll tell you, I wanted to hold off on. I'll wait on that. That scene is unbelievable. An example of how good the special effects is.
Yeah.
The thing rips its head off. They burn the body. There's like two heads there because it jumps up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
It's all freaky, and then the Norris's head splits from the body because they start burning the body on the table.
Well, that's how McCready gets the idea
that it's all
kind of it's all its own things
trying
to
away.
survive. Yeah, I mean, well, here's the you come up with the dog scene, and that's like holy fuck. And
how do you top it?
How are you gonna? That's our introduction to like this is what we're dealing with. So I mean, like, they had to kick it up a little bit, and that scene is brilliant. I mean, now that I've seen it, more times than I can count. Like it doesn't get me as a surprise factor. But when you watch, there's nothing like more fun than watching that with somebody that's never seen the movie before. Because when that shit opens up,
when his stomach opens up and its teeth and it goes down, it bites the
like
Cooper's.
People lose their shit.
I did. I mean, that's I was gonna say to briefly to touch on this, like my history with the movie. I saw it probably when I was way too young to see it, and I remember like being so freaked out by it. And then I remember being in kindergarten, looking up at the old windows of the old school, literally the old school, not old school. And I'm looking at the windows, and I'm making the Windows, his name is Windows, and maybe those windows are windows. Maybe that's the thing. And I was freaked out. Hadn't seen the movie for 15 years. And then in college, our freshman year, I remember I went home for the weekend with my girlfriend, and we'd gone to bed, and I was still watching TV. She's sleeping on me. The Thing's on, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this in years. And I start watching it. That scene happens, And that scene made me jump, and I woke her up, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, that scared the crap out of me. So I remember I came back on Monday, and I was like, "I have to go to you." I was like, "Next time we go into the city to buy film, I have to go to find, and I want to buy The Thing." And we went and bought The Thing, and then we watched it, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, like because that was a kind of a very similar. It was a movie from my youth. We've talked about John Carpenter and kind of my connection with him, and at some point realizing that that there was one man that had made all these movies that made such an impact on me, and realizing that name was John Carpenter. And so like The Thing was something that I had seen at a really young age as well, and I kind of had slipped through the cracks for a really long time, even though I was getting back into John Carpenter a lot, big time by the time that happened to you, and then that just kind of like solidified it that we watched it. The funny thing about this movie on kind of a personal level is, and we've talked about kind of like my love for horror movies a lot in the previous casts, but so I start getting like really fucking into horror movies at the end of high school and especially into college. And so my dad, who is cultured or whatever in terms of a lot of things, music and books and cinema and whatnot, he starts giving me a lot of shit about horror movies. About like, oh, that's such it's a waste of time, and it's not, whatever. Like that, the same shit that anybody would give horror movies. I think today, horror movies get a little more recognition than it did in 1997, 98. And then even that was at the start of it, where there was like this renaissance of horror as being appreciated.
It was always frowned upon for some reason.
Yeah, it was just thought of as being kind of crap. Stuff that you could maybe make a lot of money with, but wasn't artistically respected. But the one movie I could always say when he'd be like giving me crap about horror movies, I'd be like, "Dad, what about John Carpenter's The Thing?" He's like, "Oh, well, that John Carpenter's The Thing. That's one of the greatest movies ever made." We're not talking about John Carpenter.
And it's interesting.
We're talking about these other movies.
It's funny that if you find people who aren't into horror, they still all have one movie that you can cite, and they're like, "Yeah, I love it." I'm like, "I thought you weren't into horror." Like, "Well, I love this movie or that movie." It's interesting. They always have that one baby, and The Thing's a perfect example. There's so much going on in the movie. I mean, even there's scenes, we're talking about cinematography, where there's POV. And you don't know whose POV it is, and who's why. Is it at the beginning it's the dog's POV, or later on in the movie you feel like when right before Fugues' death, there's something sneaking around, and he pulls that old, the scary that sound effect.
What I find, I would love to see. I mean, and you can find like really crappy looking like work print deleted scenes and stuff online, but I've never seen anyone like. That's one thing watching at this time that I was like, I wonder what the fuck happened to Fugues.
Well, they talk about there's different cuts of it. There was a TV cut that had a little more of you meeting the characters at the beginning prior to the Norwegians arriving, which Carpenter hated. Then there's other cuts. So there's bootlegs versions of it out there.
Some of the TV cuts have like really bizarre music cues put in. So I don't know where they got the music from.
It's another example of it's weird. I found out years ago, like, why do they have different cuts? And sometimes if your movie's an hour and a half and they have to fit it into a 2-hour frame, they would just say, we need more footage. And then that's how
nowadays they would just like cut more footage and we'll just add a shitload of commercials.
Yeah.
But there was a time like Halloween has a TV cut.
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness has like a crazy TV cut that's so different.
Night of the Creeps. But you'd see these things and people don't realize. So you'd have all these extra. So I would love to see them come out with a release or just these proper deleted scenes.
Yeah. Because like what happens to Fuchs is like a complete mystery. Basically, we find somebody that they end up finding. Spoiler alert, they find remains of a burnt person.
Yeah, with glasses.
And he's like, I guess maybe he burned himself? Or, it's like they don't know what happened to him. They just find a dead body, charred body.
It's interesting because Carpenter and Kurt Russell have admitted that they don't know. They admit they don't know when the aliens took over certain people. They're like, we don't know. It's up to the belief. Now the ending.
Okay.
The ending.
So we're skipping. Great. Look, if you haven't seen this movie,
Yeah, you gotta go see it.
Like,
there's so much.
What are you waiting for?
I mean,
like, you should have turned this off.
Yeah,
like,
we're already an hour and 15 minutes into this cast. We can't go through the whole. This is the movie to go beat for beat. But there's just it slowly goes downhill. There's the great scene where they're tying people up to the couches. They're trying to find out who people are, and that's another one of these big jump scenes. And it's another brilliant use of editing because they do a lot of funny stuff with
a lot of. And that's the other thing about this movie. Is I think a lot of people lose in thought is that there's a lot of really kind of subtly funny moments
which come out more because it helps in a horror movie to have you laugh, and then there's so the link
and
there.
Just you talked about the camera moves. There's just so much brilliant stuff. Maybe the best performance by a dog ever.
Jed the dog.
That dog when he walks towards the beginning and he's walking down the hall and he goes to the one room and then he stops and then he looks and the whole time the camera's tracking with him and then he stops at the door and then walks in and then we see the shadow of the silhouette of the person look and then it fades.
Yeah,
like
that's nobody's silhouette on the. They say that Carpenter got somebody else. That's not one of the 12 principal actors, so you wouldn't know. And they also say how good of an actor Jed the dog was. That Jed never looked at any of the camera. Didn't look at any of the crew for that. So he's actually like in there. He's method acting there.
I can't. Words can't express how brilliant this movie is.
Yeah, and it just goes, and then there's a big climactic scene where Kurt Russell seems to be the lone survivor. He takes out the whole camp. Then you have his confrontation with the Thing, which I never realized until I saw deleted miniature work. It's supposed to be like in that movie Leviathan, at the end of Leviathan, which is kind of similar. It's supposed to be like an amalgam of all the things through the movie.
Like Wolf for Brimley. There's a bunch of dog stuff in there.
And you don't really get that too much in this cut.
A lot of tentacles happening.
And then Kurt Russell says he says his his 80s line, what does he say? He says fuck you. He says, shut up.
A lot of good lines. Like my other favorite line is when the head thing is going through the door and Palmer turns around. He's like, "You gotta be fucking kidding."
It's great. And then so the whole thing, denouement, Kurt Russell's alone. Keith David shows up.
Yeah. Keith David, they're in the middle of trying to figure this shit out. Why they leave Keith David where he is without anybody else, I don't know. But they're like, "Yeah, you stay here." And if
shit goes down,
if Blair tries to come in, fucking fry him. Yeah. And Childs is like, "All right, whatever."
Yeah. Then he leaves.
So they leave, and then they're trying to figure it out, and then they see Childs leave.
They see him run out
and they don't know why he leaves his post.
Now, and then he shows up, and Russell's like, "Where were you, Childs?" And he's like, "I saw something in the darkness, and I went out after it, and I got lost in the snow, and then and then they're kind of like
saw some voodoo bullshit.
Yeah, there's some uncomfortable silence. It's funny that you talk about a great thing. Also, this is one of my favorite commentaries, audio commentaries. It's Russell and Carpenter, and you can just hear them at the beginning of the movie open up a bottle of booze, and it sounds like they get progressively drunk, and they're just chain smoking because you can hear the Zippo lighters. And then every time Russell talks about Keith David, like Keith David injured his hand in a car accident, so he had his cast painted his skin color, and they're trying to hide it most of the movie with gloves and stuff. And you could see it sometimes, if you're looking for it.
You could that's the one thing I remember about that is how much Russell loves Keith David.
Yeah, so at the end of it, they don't, you don't really know what's going on, and they're kind of like, well, if we had any surprises for each other, I think we would have did it already. And he's like, all right. So he's like, what's the plan? He's like, let's just wait here and see what happens. Like, all right, and they share a bottle. It's like, boom, boom, boom. Now, it's always been left ambiguous. What the hell happened? Are they both the Thing?
Are they both the Thing? Are they not the Thing? Is one the Thing? What's the thing?
I don't know if they're both the Thing. You would think that they would know.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Hey,
yeah, hey, it's all right, all right, let's go to sleep." But now I was reading online, and it's supposedly Carpenter's answered this.
Okay,
and Carpenter from what I've heard,
you're teaching the master.
Yeah. Now I've heard that Carpenter says I've never known what the fuss was about the ending of this movie because it's clear that Kurt Russell is not the Thing and Keith David is, because if you look, he says there's in the close-ups they emphasize Kurt Russell's breathing. You could see the smoke. It looks like he's smoking a cigarette. You cut back to Keith David, you see no breathing. And I watched it when we watched it, and I'm like, that's true. Initially, when you see his silhouette come in, and he's standing there, Keith David, you could see maybe a little breathing. But once they get into medium and close-ups, it looks like Russell's using a fog machine.
Yeah.
You know, there's smoke all around him. There's no smoke at Keith David. But then the opposing argument of this is that people say, well, if that's true, the Thing can't imitate inanimate objects. So if you have an earring, you have a nose ring, whatever, that shit gets pushed out. Keith David is still wearing one of his earrings. So, but according to the word on the street, Carpenter says it's clear that, and it's true. You look, Russell you see the smoke coming right out, and there's no smoke at Keith David. So it's like, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, Carpenter has a brilliant way of having either the ambiguous ending or like the bleak ending. And I can't think
like in The Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, like I can't think of any movie of his that doesn't, especially horror-wise, that doesn't have that. I mean, even Big Trouble has like kind of...
Oh, yeah, with the monster coming out.
Yeah, like it's not over.
Yeah,
it's
not over till it's over.
It's not over.
This is a brilliant movie. It's interesting how good it still holds up to this day. You know, and it's one of these movies where, you know, who knows if it is timeless, and I think it'll always be timeless. I can't see how it's, aside from the technology in the film and then the stock of the movie, there's no real way to say that it's going to really age or just get outdated.
It's I mean it's really kind of a masterpiece. I mean, it's so well done.
What would you do for Sleepover Stars? Or, I'm sorry, Mega Joe Colas.
If I had the pop certain, I mean, I would go more than you could give it.
Yeah, 10 out of
Like, this is
11 out of 10.
This is literally one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Like, I remember there was some kind of like film festival thing that I did years ago that I had to apply, and they wanted you to write like your 5 favorite movies. This was on that list.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, no joke. Like, I put it in writing that The Thing is one of my 5 favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
It's so fucking bleak, and it's, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think you can get much on it. You can't get much better than it for like this kind of movie. Like, and you can't even really think of like another movie like it. Really, I mean, Invasion of the Body Snatchers '78 remake, which is a personal favorite of the two of ours. I mean, that's brilliant in a completely different way, and I guess like the bleakness of it and everything is comparable. And obviously, this idea of paranoia, which is, you know, the other thing that we didn't even really talk about. There's all this stuff about, you know, what, you know,
the themes,
the horrors, and the themes, and a lot of people talk about it being like a metaphor for AIDS, but this really was like.
The original was McCarthyism, and then that was one of the things people try to measure sequels or I guess remakes, where can they still convey the themes a certain way? And this was the time, who had AIDS, you couldn't tell.
This idea of like who's who, and there's also the thing about the horror of like losing yourself in it, and then the horror of not knowing who's out to get you. There's the horror of disease and decay. You know, like I said, this would be a brilliant metaphor for like the AIDS scare of the early 80s, but like that started like in 82.
Yeah.
And then even more so in like 83, 84. So like while they were making it, like the first reported case of AIDS in America didn't happen yet. So there wasn't the intention, but I could see that maybe it hitting theaters around the time that this is starting to happen, being like maybe one of the reasons why people couldn't fucking handle it, maybe.
Yeah. Last before we go, you played the game, you won the game from 2002. I hear the Carpenter said the game is canon, and it's supposedly from the point of view, it shows that Russell survived and Keith David died.
Definitely Russell's in it. There's been several adaptations. There's a book, a novelization, which is not the short story, but a novelization of the Carpenter movie. In the early 90s, there was a Dark Horse Comics put out a few runs that were like sequels to the movie, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a PlayStation 2 game.
Out of nowhere, 2002.
That came out, and I got it, and like that movie could not have been more geared towards me.
The game,
like the character in the game is named J.F. Blake, and I'm Jay Blake, but the entire time all the characters in the movie call that character Blake. So I was like, Blake, what are you doing out here?
And you're like, I don't know, but I'm scared because of you.
And so like it was taking me to a whole new fucking dimension.
And you loved it.
Oh, I loved it. It did something that I mean, I'm not a huge gamer.
Yeah.
So it definitely did something that no game beforehand had ever done, and I don't know if games since have done it. It added this whole aspect of there was like a trust meter, and so like you could see if the characters around you would start to lose trust in you by your actions. So you couldn't just run around and be fucking crazy like some people like to do in a video game to be fun, because they'll kill you because they'll think you're the thing. But if you have their trust, you can kill somebody and they'll be like, oh well, Blake knows what's going down, so it had like this whole element of that gave a depth to it that other games haven't had. Spoiler: McCready is in the game towards the end. There's also a doctor character that they used the likeness of John Carpenter.
Oh yeah,
is in it.
That's great.
It's a fun game. I should break it out and play it again.
Was it PS2?
It was PS2.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think this thing could have been like a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like we just went through Cliff Notes. So if we've missed anything, we're sorry. Please drop us a line, email us, or Facebook us, Twitter us, let us know. I'm sure everyone has an opinion about it, and I'm sure we have missed stuff that we're gonna, once we leave and go to bed, finally, we're gonna say, crap, we forgot. So we'll try to remember all that and maybe do a sequel. Who knows? Thank you very much for listening. Check out our other podcasts at SaturdaySleepovers.podwits.com. We are Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers. Blake and I do stuff on podwits.com. You can find our sidecast there. I do other things as well with the Podwits. Check that out at podwits.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on iTunes. We're on Poddroid. We're all over the place. Blake, you've got a blues site for your music? jblakeblues.com. You can find links to buy my album. Also, if you're in the New York City area, I'm starting to play a lot of shows. You can go meet them.
Late winter and spring, come out.
They can come sign your Saturday Night Movie Sleepovers paraphernalia that we have selling. Well, maybe soon we will. Thank you very much for watching. Let friends know. Tell other people. Share us. Like us. Write to us. Tell us what you like or don't like.
Yeah.
That's fun. And
share your love with John Carpenter's The Thing with us, please.
Yes. And just watch out there because you don't know who is the thing. So until next time.
Later.
Don't.